Hi friends, welcome to Oracle Aura, a space to absorb information for your soul's vibration, where we talk about holistic, metaphysical, and spiritual methods for self-development. My name is Jada Christina, and I will be your host today. So today will be the first solo cast that I've done in a really long time. It might actually be the first solo cast of the year. Don't mark my words on that because I'm not quite sure. I don't remember the last time I did a solo cast. So today is the day of a full moon, and of course I'm recording this before it gets released. So the day that I'm recording this is the day of a full moon. And holy cow, Batman, every single thing I plan, it's just like people are late, these roadblocks happen, and it kind of is just this big reminder that there's a bigger divine orchestration than anything that we can possibly plan for. And lately, I feel like I've been learning a lot about intuition and following my intuition and being pulled by my intuition. And that's what I want to talk about today with you guys. I want to talk about knowing the difference between your intuition and your fear, or your intuition and your doubt, or your intuition and your anxiety. Just learning how to tell the difference between what your third eye is telling you, what your highest self is telling you, and, you know, those thoughts that come up over and over again, those ego thoughts that think that they're protecting us. So I did a little live video about this topic in my private Facebook community called Intuitive Souls Seeking Inner Peace. If you haven't popped over in there yet, please do. I do live videos, not quite every week. Right now it's about every other week, but doing live videos in there and just chatting with you guys about different topics around empathy and being intuitive and being connected and learning how to just strengthen those gifts and let them empower you instead of be your downfall. So for a lot of people who are starseeds, light workers, healers, we're constantly getting these intuitive hits or gut feelings. We're constantly feeling like, maybe I shouldn't be around this person, right? Or whatever it may be. Maybe I shouldn't go that way, or maybe I shouldn't take this job, or whatever it is, or maybe I should take this job, or maybe I should be friends with this person. Whatever your gut is telling you, that's your intuition pushing you to be in alignment. That's your intuitive nature, your energy saying yes or no, or whatever it is. So the more that we listen to our intuition, the easier life is. Whenever we ignore our intuition, like for instance, think of a time when you met someone and something about you just felt uncomfortable being around them. Something about you said, no, I don't want to be around this person. Even if they seemed like the friendliest person in the world, think about a time when you felt that way and you didn't listen to it. You took that second thought instead that said, oh, we'll just give them a chance and see what happens. And then later on, they ended up screwing you over or showing their true colors in a nasty way. And then you probably said to yourself, wow, I really should have trusted my gut on that, right? Your intuition will never, ever, ever, ever lie to you. Energy is our first language. Energy is the language that everything on this planet speaks. Think about how maybe if you have an animal, if an animal is around a certain person and they don't like that person, or if your animal doesn't like most people and then it really likes someone, that's your animal responding to someone's energy. So in my personal experience, the more I listen to my intuition, the more in flow my life feels. On the days that I feel like, wow, I really need a freaking nap right now, and I listen to that, the better I feel. But those days that I push myself and I don't listen to the callings of my soul, those are the times that I get sick. And those are the times that I end up getting burnt out because I'm not listening to myself. I'm not listening to my soul. So ultimately, your intuition is your soul guiding you. It's guidance from within yourself. It's guidance from your highest self, and it is the ultimate guidance. Think about a time when you intuitively felt like you wanted to maybe quit your job, right? And you didn't know what was going to happen afterwards. You didn't know where you were going to go. You didn't know where you were going to work after that. You didn't know how you're going to pay your bills. And maybe you were in a bad work situation and it just felt really kind of demeaning to your character to be at your job. And you knew that it was time for you to leave that job, but you ignored that. Or maybe you listened to it just a teensy bit. And you went to your friend or your parent or your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend and you said, hey, I'm really not feeling like this job is for me anymore. And I don't really know where I want to work. I maybe have a couple ideas, but I really don't know what I want to do. All I know is I cannot work here anymore. And you told them, and 9 times out of 10, they'll start dumping their fears onto you. Well, where are you going to work? How are you going to pay your bills? What are you going to do? And now all of a sudden, that's the main thing playing in your head. Now you're trusting somebody else's judgment instead of your own intuition. How crazy is that? But how many of us do that? Especially empaths. Like, especially people who, if you're not familiar with the term empath, people who feel other people's energy firsthand, highly sensitive people who are very, very, very sensitive to other people's energy. A lot of the times we can get stuck in this trap when we don't listen to our intuition. We think, oh, I'm so emotional. My emotions are all over the place. I just can't be trusted because I'm just too sensitive. I'm crying all the time. And so I need somebody else to tell me when I'm being over emotional. Empath, if you are listening to this, that is the biggest mistake that you can make as an empath. That is the biggest disservice that you can possibly be doing to yourself. I myself have been in that situation before. I dated someone, actually, I honestly think I've dated a few people who thought that they knew more about my emotions than I knew about myself. And when we do that, we're really like cutting off our gifts. We're diminishing our gifts and we're making it like this curse or this inconvenience, like, oh, I'm just so emotional, I can't be trusted. And then when we do that, our intuition, our freaking superpower that allows us to stay in alignment, that allows us to channel messages and pick up on other people's energy and be in this state of beautiful flow, is cut off and replaced with the judgment of another person. So if you're listening to this and you're letting somebody else do that, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to look within for answers. Whenever you're thinking about doing something, of course, it's great to have a mentor. It's great to have another person who can help you and give you another opinion, but you have to know what your truths are. Above all else, trust yourself. Trust your intuition, because if you can't trust yourself, who can you trust? So whenever you're thinking about making a decision, how do you know the difference between your intuition and your fear, or your intuition and your doubt, or your intuition and your anxiety? So this little tip I learned from Marie Forleo. She is one of my favorite female entrepreneurs. I highly recommend you look her up, especially if you're a business owner. So basically, you just see how the decision feels in your body, because your body is directly connected to your intuition. Your body is keeping track of all your emotions all the time. If you're feeling tension in your shoulders, maybe you're stressing about money. If you're feeling tension in your hips, maybe you're holding on to sexual trauma, or maybe you're holding on to emotional energy. If you're experiencing any tension in your body, a lot of the times it's emotional energy. So in this case, thinking of a decision, thinking of this future option, or maybe even a relationship with a person or a friendship or a new friend, close your eyes. Obviously, don't do this if you're driving, but close your eyes and think about that intuitive option. Think about whatever it was your intuition, or even if you don't know yet, if you don't know which one's your intuition, if you're having this tug of war between your heart and your head, just think about one option, okay? Let it overwhelm you. Think about as if it had already come true. So we'll go back to the job example. So let's say, for example, you're working a serving job and you're just feeling like, oh my God, I can't deal with these rude customers anymore. I don't deserve this. I'm ready to quit. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm ready to quit. So in that case, you would just close your eyes and think about what it would feel like to be free of that, to not work there anymore, to just step out and hand them your apron and say, I don't know what's happening after this, but I trust that the universe is going to give me something bigger and better, because my intuition or whatever it is guiding me out of here. And just let that overwhelm you. What does it feel like to already have left that job? If it feels expansive, if you feel like your energy is expanding and you feel like a weight has been lifted off your shoulders, that is a sign that your intuition is guiding you. Now, on the other hand, if you feel like you're going to throw up and you feel tightness in your chest, that's an intuition that your decision is based on fear or lack or something other than your intuition. So any intuitive decision, yes, may still feel a little scary. It may feel like cliff diving, but ultimately it should feel expansive. It should feel like a step forward for you as a person. You can listen to self-development podcasts all day long and, gurus on Instagram and read all the self-help books and all of that. And don't get me wrong, obviously I'm a huge fan of all of those things. I love expanding my knowledge, but knowledge and wisdom are two different things. So the ultimate wisdom is always at the very, very, very core of your being. So whenever you're going through the self-development realm and you're reading The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, little plug there, that's one of my favorite books. If you're listening to a podcast like, Oracle Aura, if you're listening to music even that has these spiritual messages in it, don't just let someone else be your truth. Don't let someone else decide what your truth is. Even actually, especially when you're scrolling on Instagram and you're seeing all these little tidbits of spiritual knowledge or wisdom. I'm doing air quotes as I say this because there's so much shit floating around on the internet. You have to use discernment. Like, really take a moment and see what resonates with you in your body, because nobody else on this planet knows your truth more than you do. And my truth is not going to be the same as your truth, and your truth is not going to be necessarily the same as your partner's truth. There might be things that overlap, but ultimately our own intuition is our ultimate guide. That core energy You hear me talk about this a lot on this podcast, that core energy at the very core of your being, the purity that you were when you came into this world, when you came into this physical existence as a little baby, before you got layered up with societal norms and conditioning and belief systems and trauma. Underneath all of that, you still have this very pure energy. So whenever you take the time to slow down and listen, really listen to what you're really listen to what you're listening to, or take a second to really contemplate, I guess is a good word for it. Take a moment to really contemplate what you're absorbing. And rather than just saying, oh, so-and-so said this, so it's true, take a moment to see how it sits with you. Take a moment to close your eyes and say, is that my truth? Because ultimately, only you know your truth. So coming back to intuition and fear, what do you do when fear is what's motivating you? Excuse me. What do you do when you think about that decision and, you know, maybe you're in that job that you feel like sucks and you really want to get out of this job, but when you think about leaving it, it makes you want to throw up. Maybe you have a child to take care of. Maybe it would be totally irresponsible for you to just quit your job and walk out. Maybe you have even child support to pay, or, you know, maybe you have a deeper, more intricate situation than just simply being able to walk away from your job. So in that case, there are several things you can do. You can ask for signs. So anytime that you want to know the answer to something, your intuition is always speaking to and connecting with the things around you. And the great mystery, God, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it, hears you whenever you ask for a sign. So let's say you're in this situation. I'm just going to continue using this example. You're in this situation where you're working at a restaurant that you don't like, and you feel like you want to at least go look for a new job, okay? So maybe you start looking for new jobs, but you're not quite sure what kind of field you should look in, okay? So you're thinking, okay, well, maybe I'll look for a job at a bank. That way, you know, I can have banker's hours, I can have Sundays off to spend with my kid, blah, blah, whatever. So if that's the case, but you're kind of not quite sure, you're kind of on the fence, I don't know if I should do it, then you can ask for a very specific sign. So some of my favorites are red bird and orange butterfly. And sometimes they come to me in other ways. So I've asked to see a red bird, and I've seen it on... I'm just going to tell the story. So I asked to see a red bird. I don't remember why exactly I asked to see the red bird, but my parents had cut out all these Mexican petunias in my dad's backyard that were just like taking over the backyard. I wish they didn't do it, but anyways, that's besides the point. So they cut out all these Mexican petunias, and while they were back there, they found all these little lawn statues that the flowers had just like taken over. And the lawn statues were there since the previous owners had the house. And the first one I saw when I walked outside was a moose with a little red bird sitting on it. So it doesn't necessarily have to literally be like an actual alive red bird. I just saw that little red bird and it gave me a chuckle, and I almost felt like that was the universe telling me that what I was looking for wasn't going to look the way that I thought it was going to look, like to be open. So that's option one, is asking for a sign. And if you don't receive the sign, that's also a sign. You can give a time frame if you want. Let me see it within the next day. Let me see it within the next week. Let me see it. I've even asked before to see a bird within 3 seconds. And I looked up and literally, like, on the 3rd second, a bird flew over my head and flew around in a circle. So it can be specific like that. Or you can leave your options open. And in doing this, in leaving your options open, you are saying, universe, I trust you, or God, or source, or whatever you want to call it. I truly do feel the need to say every single name every single time, because different names resonate with different people, but ultimately we're all speaking about the same thing. So this, I'm not going to lie to you guys, this is new for me. Like, accepting the unknown is fucking terrifying. Our egos hate it. Our egos just want to have everything figured out, right? They want step A, step B, step C. This is how we're going to do it. This is how much money it's going to cost. This is, how long it's going to take. And this is going to be the final result. But it doesn't always work like that. And honestly, the universe, God, source, creates based on our courage. So whenever we're courageous enough to even staying at that job that you hate and making the most of it and saying, you know what, I'm grateful that I have this job because it allows me to pay my bills, that's courageous. Or if you decide to leave and you say, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know that something big is coming and I trust that something big is coming, that's courageous too. And every single time something will land underneath your feet. But it really takes that courage. So either way is really allowing for courage. But man, stepping into the unknown is really, really scary. Like, really scary. I have a memory of being in this big spring with my cousins. We went to this spring in South Florida, and it was called Warm Mineral Springs. And it sounds really like inviting and happy, but that shit smelled like sulfur, y'all. Do not recommend. Well, I don't know. I might go back there just because of all the minerals, but it really stunk like rotten eggs. But anyways, yeah, so I was swimming with my cousin, and I put my goggles on and we went out into the middle of it. And in the middle of this spring, they said it was like 230 something feet deep. Like, it was super deep. And of course you hear that and your mind is just like, whoa, like, this is kind of scary. I don't know what's under me. Like, this is terrifying. And so I put my goggles on and I just floated on my stomach and looked down into it. And there were so many minerals floating in the water. There was like gold, silver, all these minerals floating in the water, like 50 something minerals, I want to say. And I saw these light beams, these sunlight rays just like dancing in the reflections of the water. And I got this download that said, trust the unknown, trust the unknown. The unknown is beautiful. And whenever we step into the unknown and we just say, I trust, we're opening ourselves up to infinite possibilities. There are literally infinite possibilities for what your soul can do in your physical body on this planet. There are so many different paths you can take. So whenever you allow yourself to get out of your mind and say, I trust, and step into your heart, then you're truly allowing yourself to align with the divine feminine. The divine masculine wants a plan, wants step A, step B, step C, because the divine masculine is all about action, moving forward. And we all have that within us, but we all also have that divine feminine energy that says it's okay to be still in the darkness. It's okay to accept the unknown, because when I embrace the unknown, I open myself up to endless possibility. infinite possibility. And it's in those moments when those strongest intuitive hits will come to you. And believe me, the more you do that, the more you will know what is your intuition and what is something of outside influence. So something that's really important to keep in mind as well is that when your intuition guides you to something or guides you away from someone, not everyone is going to understand that. And that's okay. Like, that's totally 1000% okay. Like, just to give you guys an example, back in, I want to say 2017, I was in a long-term relationship, and I ended the relationship because we weren't aligned. It just wasn't good. So I ended the relationship, and right after I broke up with him, it was like all these intuitive hits that I'd been getting about getting my yoga teacher certification had been pushed down and pushed down and pushed down and pushed down. And then when I broke up with him, boom, they all came up to the surface. It was like a volcano. And just this strong intuitive hit came to me. And I was in that space where I was in that unknown, and I just felt like, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm cool with it. And as soon as I stepped into that space, that intuitive hit came to me that said, go get your yoga teacher certification. And so that night I was looking up yoga teacher trainings, and I came across one that was in India, and I thought, wow, this is great. And then I reflected on all the times when I'd had an idea and I'd gone to my friends or my parents or my significant other, and I told them about it, and they told me every reason why I couldn't do it. And at that point, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't mentally independent enough to be able to overcome objection from the people that I loved. So I put down a deposit for my school before I told anybody, and then I told everybody. And it just felt so good to know that I made that decision on my own, because that's where my intuition was guiding me. Don't get me wrong, I still did my research on the school and everything before I decided to go over there. But yeah, I listened and I followed it, and I was so freaking grateful that I did, because had I not, who knows where I would be? Who knows what I would be doing? Teaching yoga is one of the passions in my life, and one of the ways that my soul expresses its, unique gifts on this planet. And speaking of which, if you've been listening to this podcast for a little while, you have heard all the things about my journey with coaching, about how I was starting a coaching business, and then I let doubt get the best of me. And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I quit. There was a time where I quit, and I just felt like I couldn't do it anymore, because I was so discouraged, because my doubtful thoughts were getting the best of me. But now I am super stoked to announce that I stepped into that place of being in the unknown. Girl, I freaking drove for Uber until I figured my shit out. And I really, truly feel like if I don't listen to my intuition, it will be something that I regret for the rest of my life. I know for a fact that my soul is here to help empaths trust their intuition, get grounded in their own energy, and feel empowered by their gifts. So very soon, I will be offering one-on-one coaching. I'm going to have some new free goodies for you guys coming within the next month or so. And until then, make sure you pop over to Facebook and join the private Facebook group, Intuitive Souls Seeking Inner Peace, where I'll be going live about every other weekend and doing a little self-care video for you guys, where we'll talk about things like this: trusting your intuition, learning how to tell the difference between your intuition and your ego, trusting your gifts. I'll give you guys meditations and all kinds of good stuff. So feel free to pop over there. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, please pop over to your favorite podcasting platform and rate me a positive review. I would appreciate it so much. Thank you so much, guys. Don't forget to trust your intuition. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.